Hello and welcome to this edition of NHK Newsline. I'm Roger Pradhan with the news from Tokyo. Friday this week is the day the Chinese government designates to mourn the victims of the Nanjing incident in 1937. Japanese schools across China spent the day closed or teaching online. This comes after a series of attacks this year involving their students. A memorial ceremony was held in Nanjing. It's believed anti-Japanese sentiment tends to grow in China around the anniversaries of historic events in China-Japan relations. In September, a boy was stabbed to death on his way to a Japanese school in Xinjiang. And in June, a fatal attack at a bus stop for a Japanese school occurred in Suzhou. A Chinese bus attendant was killed, and a Japanese woman and her child were injured. Lawmakers in South Korea will vote on a second attempt to impeach President Yoon Suk-yeol on Saturday. Yoon's own party will also be holding a meeting to prepare for what comes next. The opposition submitted the motion earlier this week. The first attempt failed after the ruling party boycotted the vote. Yoon threw his country into political turmoil after declaring martial law last week. He's now facing a criminal investigation and widespread protests calling for him to step down. The leader of the main opposition Democratic Party is asking Yoon's party to support the motion.
Impeaching the president is the quickest and surest way to stop this confusion.
It needs 2/3 of the National Assembly to pass. That means at least 8 members from the People Power Party would need to vote in favor. As of Friday night, 7 of them reportedly intend to. With a possible impeachment looming, Yoon's party will hold a meeting Saturday ahead of the vote. They're expected to discuss their next steps. The party leader has already said members should support the motion. Two of Japan's bullet train lines will include female-only toilets by next spring. The move is in response to an increase in female tourists and business travelers. The 16-car Tokaido and Sanyō Shinkansen bullet trains currently have unisex toilets on odd-numbered cars. Half of those will be converted to female-only for services between Tokyo Station and Fukuoka Prefecture's Hakata Station in southwestern Japan. The 11th car of each train will be exempted as one of the 2 toilets are already used as multi-purpose toilets. We move now to what's making headlines in other parts of the Asia-Pacific with Trati Rakosan at our bureau in Bangkok.
The Islamic State group has claimed responsibility for Wednesday's suicide bombing that killed the Taliban's acting minister for refugees. A funeral for Khalil Haqqani was held Thursday in the eastern Afghan province of Paktia. Thousands were at the ceremony in the Haqqani clan heartland. With high-ranking Taliban officials attending, security was tight. The blast inside the refugee ministry in Kabul also killed 3 ministry staffers. Haqqani is the most high-profile casualty of an assault on the Taliban since the group regained power in 2021. ISIS issued a statement saying one of its fighters broke into the building and detonated his explosive vest. The Taliban said they had contained the threat posed by ISIS in Afghanistan. Haqqani's killing throws that claim into doubt. The World Bank sees Myanmar's GDP shrinking 1% this fiscal year. That's a downward revision from the previous projection of modest growth. The bank says the country's ongoing conflict and natural disasters have hit its economy hard. The bank's report released Wednesday says inflation is expected to remain at 26%. That's up 8 points from the previous report published in June. The bank expects inflation to reach 30% next fiscal year. Since the junta seized power nearly 4 years ago, the country's military has been fighting pro-democracy forces and armed ethnic minority groups. The report says the protracted conflict has impacted production and supply chains, battering the currency and sending prices soaring. It also points to widespread flooding triggered by Typhoon Yagi that damaged infrastructure and hurt manufacturing. It says over a third of all companies and more than half of agricultural firms reported losses from the storm in September. The bank's country director for Myanmar, Melinda Good, called it an urgent and critical task to support recovery efforts to help Myanmar's most vulnerable people. And now check this out. An Indian teenager is the youngest ever world chess champion after edging out the Chinese title holder in their showdown in Singapore. 18-year-old Gukesh Domaraju burst into tears after clinching victory Thursday. He fought 14 intense matches over 3 weeks against 32-year-old Ding Liren. The series was expected to go to a tiebreaker, but a shock blunder by Ding handed Gukesh the win. The bearded prodigy told reporters he had dreamt about the moment for years.
My whole strategy for this match was to push as much as possible in every single game with both colors. I want to play for as long as I can. I want to have a very, very long career and to stay at the very, very top.
Born to a doctor father and microbiologist mother in the South Indian city of Chennai, Gukesh began playing chess at age 7. The previous youngest world champion was Garry Kasparov, who took the title age 22. Gukesh is the second Indian grandmaster to be crowned champion of the world. He takes home over $1 million.